All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Booth Review Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have John Gasaway. He covers college basketball for ESPN, and he has a book coming out March 16th called Miracles on the Hardwood. Welcome, Mr. Gasaway.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I just wanted to get started by asking you to describe your job at ESPN.
Coming to you now in February, I am the main point person for updating Bubble Watch anytime any bubble team plays, or for that matter, anytime something happens that changes their chances. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be a game. It can be in this day and age, it can be a COVID-19 pause, sadly, or it can be a scheduling decision that's arrived at. But anytime anything changes, Bubble Watch is there, updating your team's chances to make the tournament. And outside of the time frame between the Super Bowl and Selection Sunday, I do a lot of other analysis of college basketball as well. So it's a fun gig.
Yeah, very exciting. How did you get into sports writing?
I had a normal job, and I found myself arriving at the office very early, so I could sit at my computer and write about college basketball and post those things to a blog. And I did that for 3 years, and that led to an offer to help start a new website, which was called Basketball Prospectus. I joined a friend of mine that I had met through writing on the internet named Ken Pomeroy, and we started that. And I did that for about 6 seasons, and then that site was more or less acquired lock, stock, and barrel by ESPN.com, and here I am.
Wow. What's been the most fun part about working at ESPN so far?
Everybody is doing a job that they wanted to do when they grew up.
Yeah.
I've been in that conversation with colleagues, and it's a good sensation when you say to a colleague, well, what do you really want to do, when you grow up? And I've literally had colleagues say, I'm doing it right now. So yeah. That's a great sensation. I am not a believer that there is only one professional aim that you should have. Those aims change all the time. That's fine. But for now, it's fun and rewarding. I like it.
Have you spent any time at the headquarters in Bristol?
Not during the pandemic, no.
Yeah, but
it's a different realm at this time, where only the TV people show up to blast things out of our state-of-the-art studio. Before the pandemic, yeah, and it was fun because Selection Sunday, for example, great environment, waiting for something to happen. Or to use another example, the first weekend of the tournament, so many games happening that it doesn't really make sense to send people to just one site. It's always interesting. The first weekend of the tournament, the press at the actual games are always asking for help on social media. What's going on? The best place to be is in front of a bank of TVs with your colleagues in Bristol. And just to choose one tale, when Virginia lost to UMBC, it was incredible because it was late on what had been. It was the last window of games on what had been a dull Friday night, and everybody in our war room was grousing. Oh man, what are we going to write about? There's really nothing happening. So much chalk. It's boring. And this was the late window, and all heck broke loose, literally. People running around, and ESPN in touch with people at the game site, and it's valuable to be in the same room with your editor. And he was such a busy guy that I didn't even bother pitching something to him or saying, this is what I think I should write about off of this historic event. I just wrote it. And I
Yeah.
literally took my laptop to him and put it physically in front of him and said, here. And he was like, yeah, and it was up on the website in about 20 minutes. I know that we're going to change a lot of things about how we do going forward based on what we've learned during the pandemic, but there is still a role for old school, show up at the office, and maybe we'll get back to that.
Yeah, and the cafeteria in Bristol has become something of a legend. Does it really live up to all the hype? Like,
Yeah. I'm not sure anything with cafeteria in its title deserves hype, but it's good. And there are traditions that develop. There's a room just off the cafeteria where the bigwigs, the TV guys, that's where they watch the tournament, and that's their real estate. It's cool how traditions like that develop. Years before I got there, when Digger Phelps was helping with the coverage. When he was watching a game at ESPN, and the game had gotten out of hand, he would literally throw a plastic fork at the screen as if to say, put a fork in them, that team is done. That tradition has passed on down to me. That's probably the only way in which I'm Digger Phelps Jr. And so I do that. And back when there was not a pandemic, it was a treat to see staff members who are new to the organization, new to the tradition, see this strange guy Gasaway throw a plastic fork at a TV and say, "Well, what's he doing?" Stuff like that. So yeah, the cafeteria comes by its legend, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when you're putting your bracket together and analyzing these teams, how do you do your analysis? Is it all statistical, or do you ever base intangibles in your analysis, or is it just mostly statistical?
Yeah, I do, or I got into this game by standing on the shoulders of giants like former North Carolina coach Dean Smith and basketball analyst Dean Oliver. Came up with much of the blueprint here. I ran with Lee, and I do and have for a while track every possession in major conference play. So that's all there on my laptop, but I do get into lively arguments with my laptop all the time and say, no, you're wrong. I don't believe you about Texas Tech, or you're way overrating Clemson. It happens every day of the week. And when you fill out a bracket, you get into those lively discussions. You can't just be led by any one thing, be it instincts or numbers or anything else. You got to bring it all together as best you can. I have joined a rapidly growing movement of not filling out a bracket. I used to think that was crazy. I tried it, and of course last year there wasn't a tournament, but I think it was for the first time 2 years ago. My enjoyment of the tournament just increased exponentially because, especially the first weekend, I'm not yelling at even if you get some incredible number of round of 32 games correct, you find yourself yelling at that 32nd one, or the 31st one. It's like, oh, terrible call. The refs cost me. It can be a blissful way to live, just to let the madness wash over you without any vested bracket interest. So consider it. I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but it's an option.
Yeah. Does ESPN do a bracket pool like within the office?
Yeah. Our tournament challenge, you can form any group that you want and invite any subset of people. And actually, those are fun too. I can see going either way. I used to love competing those, but then you have a bad year, and here's ESPN's analytic guru getting trounced by somebody like, well, this is no fun. So, you take the good with the bad. But the tournament challenge, the data that they can collect on there is just fantastic. As far as there's millions of entries, and who picked, how many, hundreds of thousands of people picked this. Who's got a perfect bracket, after about, Friday morning. That's always a really cool stat
Yeah,
out of the
absolutely.
millions and millions, and so it's fun. And
Mhm.
I'm all about the enjoyment of the bracket. So there's room for everybody in every style.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts on the blue blood schools struggling this season? Duke, Louisville, UNC, they've all kind of had on seasons on the low end of average, and it's kind of just confusing because I know they always get all the best recruits.
Yeah, yeah. As we're recording this, the Blue Bloods have, except for Louisville, have had a one game window of upswing. So maybe they will look better than they've looked so far. But
Yeah,
in the historical sense, they're all down from where they usually
absolutely.
are. So even if they rally. As we discuss this, it looks like, for instance, North Carolina will make the tournament.
Yeah.
That's about it as far as Louisville will make the tournament, but they're in a unique situation because they've paused for so long. Pretty much nobody else, and this is a departure. I tend to view it as a healthy dose of coincidence, because as much as we like to say, oh, those rely on one and dones. Programs like North Carolina, Michigan State in particular, always have a healthy portion of veterans. In fact, 2 years ago at this time, we were using Michigan State as Exhibit A for grizzled veterans. They beat
Absolutely.
Zion and Duke in the Elite Eight, and everybody rushed to say, "See, this is why veterans are so important." So it's not as simple as just saying, they're all these teams all have young rosters, and that's a challenge in a pandemic. What is true is that Kentucky and Duke usually are pretty young, and that can be a high variance way to live. And no mystery, or very little mystery left, as far as identifying NBA track prospects in high school. If you compare rankings, draft order 1 year later, it correlates really well. The variance comes in as, yeah, but what will those guys do during their 1 year in college? That is the mystery out there that we still haven't nailed down. Will they have a Zion Williamson like effect on their
Yeah.
team as a freshman, or will it be more Markel Fultz effect as a freshman? We don't know.
Hmm.
And that's why you can see outliers like Kentucky and Duke this year.
Yeah. Do you have a dark horse pick for the Final Four?
Hmm. Good question. I do like to see the pairings before I make those picks. It can matter
Yeah.
if there's a 1 or a 2 seed or both who are being drastically overrated for whatever reason. I will say that as we discuss this, slipped the map because they lost their last game. Well, no, they didn't. They just trounced somebody. It was trounced Cincinnati, but before that,
Yeah.
they lost their last game at Wichita State. People don't see many Houston games. They play in the American. That is a really
Hmm.
tough team, and they play great defense, and they
Yeah.
attack the offensive glass. And there are very highly seeded, or there will be very highly seeded teams in the bracket where not many opponents in their conferences go for offensive rebounds. And it's one of the joys of the NCAA tournament is to see styles like that clash, and to see
Yeah.
a 1 or a 2 seed confronted with a team like that going, oh, wait a minute, these guys are really pounding us on the glass. So I would definitely keep an eye on Houston.
Hmm. So I think so. Luca Garza at Iowa is having a incredible season this year. He's averaging 25 and 9, I believe. And Iowa's having a great season. Do you think his talents are going to translate to the NBA? Because he's an older guy right now, and a lot of talent scouts usually lean towards the younger guys when they're picking in the NBA draft.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA has sound business reasons why they would prefer to spend that money on a younger guy when you're
Yeah.
looking at the career arc of draft picks, and I don't begrudge them that at all. I've got I'm very talented colleagues who make those translations between college and pro, be it visual or statistical or otherwise. And it's fair to say they're not especially bullish on Garza as a pro prospect because of his age. Obi Toppin last year the same way, and then Toppin, I believe, at the time, was younger than Garza is going to be. It's hard to make those translations sometimes. And of course, Toppin was the National Player of the Year, so it's not always a one-to-one correlation. That was the enjoyable aspect of the convergence brought about by Zion Williamson. Was you didn't just need painstaking analysis by people combing statistics to say this guy is incredible. You just needed to be on YouTube, watch him, and the NBA and college fans and casual fans could all come together and say, yes, Zion. That can tend to be the exception to the rule, and we're kind of reverting back to a norm with Luka Garza this season.
Mm-hmm. Who do you think the best player in the tournament will be?
The best player in the tournament?
Yeah.
Is that what? I'm sorry, you broke out.
Yeah. Best player in the tournament.
Yeah. Well, Garza and Ayo Dosunmu, with his late game heroics, are certainly getting a lot of attention. I guess I would only demand equal time, because we just haven't been able to see him at all for weeks, is Jared Butler with Baylor. I love watching him play. He is the archetype of what makes Baylor good. They are a combination of talent that you don't miss or is not hard to spot, but also just an attitude of blue collar relentlessness that I love to watch. They will fight you for that win, and I think that if he can come back, if his team can come back full speed, sometimes that's a challenge coming off a pause, then he will definitely be a player to watch in addition to the two usual suspects from the Big Ten, who are rightly getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gonzaga is number one right now, and they've been absolutely dominant this season. And they're usually in the top five, like perennially, but it doesn't really seem like they've been able to get it done in the last 10 years. Have they won a championship in the last 10 years?
No, but they did make the national championship game in 2017, Elite Eight in 2015, only to lose to the eventual champions. So not much shame in those runs.
They always make deep tournament runs, but and they're always ranked very highly, but they haven't been able to like get it done. Do you think they'll be able to get it done this year, or are you still a little bit skeptical of Gonzaga?
Yeah, I mean, it's always exciting when a team has a shot at doing what Indiana did in 1976, which is the last time anybody did it. Gonzaga is certainly, they've come by their overall number one seed, we think, credentials, honestly. I was just looking at this the other day and making a completely unrelated point. The best chance, according to my friend and former colleague Ken Pomeroy's laptop, the best chance that any team has had to beat Gonzaga at any point of any game this year was West Virginia, with 2 minutes left in the first half, quite early in the season. And they were at a 63% chance to win. So when you can say that about an entire season, and of course in the preseason, Gonzaga was taking all comers. They tend to be perennially underrated, because they haven't won a national championship, because they're in the West Coast Conference. But if you took any great team this year, and whatever your definition of great team is, Baylor, Michigan, whomever, you plop them in the West Coast Conference, this is exactly what you see. You would see the kind of wins and the kind of statistics that you're getting out of Gonzaga. So I believe I always want to see a bracket. We think we know who the 1 seeds will be, so there's not much mystery there. But it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Gonzaga and Baylor, Gonzaga and Michigan, Michigan and Baylor, some combination of those teams in the national championship game.
Yeah, Michigan has also been incredible this year. Juwan Howard has really completely turned the program around.
And the thing is, we came to that realization with Michigan a little bit later, just because of vagaries of the non-conference schedule. But
Yeah.
if we could, if I could blindfold you, back in October, and then reveal the whole map right now, I think anyone's reaction would be, "Wow, Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan." It's just a kind of a discursive habit that we've learned from December to say Gonzaga and Baylor only.
Yeah, yeah. So as an analyst and a writer, do you root for a team, or do you just root for players and storylines and stuff like that?
Well, you have to lead a dual existence. I mean, I, like many people, did go to college. I am a
Yeah.
college basketball fan, so I want my team to do well. I want my team to win the national championship. My colleague Joe Lunardi, he's a fan of St. Joseph's, and in putting together his bracket projections, no. I don't want to make him angry, but being a fan of St. Joseph's isn't a problem most years. But that doesn't have to influence him. But in 2004, because they were undefeated all the way to their conference tournament, and they lost in the first round by 20 or something to Xavier.
Yeah.
So he writes about this in his new book, Bracketology. There's a plug. So far, I haven't faced any conflicts like that, with my team. I would love to be put in that position someday, where they're fighting for a national championship while I work at ESPN. But
What's your
so far,
team?
so good.
What's
My
your
team
team?
is Illinois. Go Illini.
Okay.
Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Gasaway. Thank you very much for taking the time. It's been great talking.
Hey, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. Always good to talk hoops.
All right. Thank you very much.